Today's date is September 13th, 2023, and the time is 5:00 p.m. I would like to invite my fellow commission members to introduce themselves to you, beginning on my right, please.
Hello, I'm Matt McCool.
Joseph Cox.
William Edwards.
Jordan Morris.
Francine Wasden.
David Nelson.
Thank you very much. And joining us from city staff this evening, we have Mr. Chad Hobbs, who is the Associate City Attorney, Mr. Hudson Cheshire, Assistant City Attorney, Ms. Emily Hayes, the Associate Director of Planning, Mr. Jonathan Bowen, Associate Director of Planning, and Emily is the Neighborhood Resources Coordinator. No, you've been changed. Wait. You guys changed things around.
Yes, so Jonathan just
fooled me.
recently got promoted to the Neighborhood Resources Coordinator, and I'm the Associate Director of Planning.
Well, thank you very much. So let me repeat that one more time for everybody. I saw this and I just hadn't been told, so I was a little surprised. So Ms. Emily Hayes, the newly promoted Associate Director of Planning, Mr. Jonathan Bowen, the newly promoted Neighborhood Resources Coordinator. So thank you. And providing audiovisual support for us this evening is Mr. Kevin Jones. Before we hear our cases for this evening, I'd like to go over the purpose and some of the procedural aspects of the hearing tonight. The general purpose of the Tuscaloosa Historic Preservation Commission is that we serve to preserve and protect the buildings, sites, and historic structures of interest in Tuscaloosa's historic neighborhoods. We are governed by Chapter 20, Article 2 of the Code of Tuscaloosa, which includes design guidelines that are posted on the city's website. These decisions, our decisions, are based on these design guidelines and do not consider use or occupancy. We do consider such factors as architectural style, the appropriateness of materials, and how the structure relates to other structures in the immediate neighborhood in determining the appropriateness of the application. An approval of an application requires 5 affirmative votes. If the certificate is approved, please be aware that there will be a final inspection by city staff to ensure compliance with what was approved this evening. Going over the procedure for tonight, this is a public hearing. It is televised live on local cable, streamed online through Facebook, and is being recorded to be posted on the city's website. We ask proper decorum, civility, and respect for others at all times. Prior to this meeting, notice was sent to adjacent property owners, and the public has been notified of the applications to be presented tonight. This hearing is a chance for the applicant to present his or her case, for the public to make their views known about the project, and for commission members to gather relevant facts about the application before making its decision. City staff will begin by introducing the application. The applicant will then have a chance to make any comments. The commissioners will then have an opportunity to ask the applicant questions about the case. I will then open the floor to public comment. At the close of public comment, the commission will then discuss the matter and vote on the application. Any person wishing to speak on behalf of another person, group, or entity shall provide written authorization to the chairperson from that person, group, or entity being represented. Immediate family members, and we define that as a spouse, a parent, or a child, do not have to provide such written authorization when speaking on behalf of another immediate family member. And we ask that you please leave the signs in your yard. City staff will be around in the next couple of days to pick them up. As the commission members have received a synopsis of the previous meeting, I move that we dispense with the reading of the minutes of the same unless there are any deletions, additions, or corrections. Do I have a motion to approve said synopsis? Vote. Thank you. And we will vote beginning on my left, please.
Yes.
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 Thank you very much. The commission members have had a chance to review tonight's agenda items. Do any of the members have a conflict of interest as defined by Section 6 of the commission bylaws with any of these items?
I have a conflict with HPC 4423.
Thank you, Mr. Cox. And let me ask city staff, has proper notification been provided for each of the agenda items?
It has.
Great, thank you very much. Well, let's move on to our first application. And have the record show that Mr. Cox is recusing himself. at this time.
Good afternoon, Commission. We'll start with our first case, HPC 4423. April and Ron Woodis petition for a certificate of appropriateness for signage on the property at 520 19th Avenue. This is in the Druid City Historic District, Council District 4. So here we have an aerial view of the property as well as its location. This is a view from 19th Avenue of the property. And then here we have that adjacent eastern property. So the proposal is for 3 wall signs. They are vinyl lettering and they are externally illuminated. So again, here's a view of the primary structure. And then this is a close-up of the sign. So the sign, the Big Bad Breakfast, those are externally illuminated. They would mimic the Mellow Mushroom sign, also the Lush Med Spa sign. That's all located in the same block. And then you have these on either side of the sign. They're the vinyl lettering. Here's a closer-up image of that Mellow Mushroom sign. So pretty identical to the letters used. And then here's a closer-up image of that Lush Med Spa sign that's on right around the corner from this location. Here we have the applicable design guidelines. We did not receive any public comment for this application, and we do have the petitioners and their representatives in person.
Are there any questions for Mr. Bowen? All right, thank you very much. Let me invite the applicant or the applicant's representative to come up to the podium. Thank you. And if you don't mind, could you state your name
Sure.
and your address for the
Ron
record?
Woodis, 3000 Nimitz Circle, 35406. Hi.
Is there anything else you can tell us about your application?
You know, I'm probably the last to know, but this has, nope, it's, everything's there. We're doing anything that's specifically like to ask about it, because I'm not
Do
sure
commission
I'm
members
fully
have
up
any
to
questions?
speed.
Right. Commission members may have a question
Sure.
for you. I'll just open that up if you do. It appears we have no questions for you today.
Fantastic.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for your consideration.
All right, and let me open the floor to public comment. Is there anyone here to speak in support of or opposition to this application? All right, let me close the floor to public comment and open the floor to discussion by commission members. So it's similar in style with the light bulbs, with 2 signs we've already approved that are in the immediate neighborhood, almost adjacent properties.
I take no issue with it related to the materials, the configuration, particularly given the context within the same block.
Okay. Are there any other comments by the commission members? All right, so we have a standing motion to approve HPC 4423, April and Ron Woodis petition for a certificate of appropriateness for signage on the property located at 520 19th Avenue in the Druid City Historic District. We will vote, beginning on my right, please.
Yes.
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 All right, Mr. Woodis, your application has been approved this evening. Should anything change, see city staff before you proceed. There will be a final inspection, and good luck with your project. And let the record show that Mr. Cox has rejoined the hearing.
All right, next case is HPC 4523, Bobby Tesney, petitions for a certificate of appropriateness for an addition and exterior alterations. This is to the primary structure at 29 University Circle in the University Circle Historic District, Council District 4. So here we have the location, an aerial view of this property. This is a view of the property from University Circle. And then here we have the adjacent northern and southern properties. The proposal, we're going to go through over the next few slides, and we'll go side by side, elevation by elevation. This is for an addition to the north side of the primary structure. They're also replacing all the vinyl siding that currently exists. They will go back with hardy board siding, replace all the windows that currently exist with PVC replacement sash kits. And then there's a second floor roof expansion that we will show in the next few slides. They will also put 2 new dormers on that newly expanded roof. So again, this is the front view, the front elevation of the primary structure. This is just a closer up to show the front gable and the roof. And then here is the existing and proposed front elevation. Major changes, the extension of the roof, new windows. Essentially, they're raising the roof, and they're going to extend the chimney. Also on this side, we have another elevation that will show this, where this addition is located. You won't be able to see that addition because there is a fence currently prohibiting that side of view. All right, we'll move on. This is the rear elevation. So this is an image of what currently exists. And then here we have the existing and the proposed rear. The significant change is this roof line here. And I will let the applicant talk more about why that change is needed. Also, this is the rear portion of that addition or that extension of the roof. And they're going to place it with lap siding where that new addition will be located. Moving on, this is the north side, the north elevation. So right in this section here is where the addition will be. And you can see that notated on the drawings. They're also proposing new windows on the expansion of that second floor. This is the side view of those new dormers. And the applicant does have more information about the proposed new roof section, what that's going to look like. I'll let them speak more about that. And then here's the south side, the south elevation, closer up images of those. Major changes here, new windows, your dormer, and then that new section of roof line. They are also proposing to change out these windows down here for transom windows. And this is just a closer-up images to show the condition of the existing windows. We took some pictures that tried to show the adjacent properties and what the roof line looks like in comparison to 28. So this is a property in question here, and then right next to it is a property. It's just to show the side-by-side between the roof slopes as well as those dormers, which they do intend to mimic those style of dormers. These photos were provided by the applicant. This is taken on top of the roof. This image kind of shows the slope of the roof behind the chimney. And then this picture here, which I'll bring the applicant up and they can discuss a little bit more from these pictures they provided. Materials, hardy lap siding, PVC windows, the sash kits. Roof will be architectural asphalt shingle. And then here we have those spec sheets that were provided. And here are those applicable design guidelines for this project. We did receive 2 public comments in support of this application. We do have the petitioners here in person.
Can you show us that photo of the adjacent property again, please? And there we go. And then do we have a front view, front elevation of that property,
Yes,
of the neighboring property?
of the neighboring
adjacent one,
property.
Yeah. There was just one thing I wanted to check.
So that's 30, and this is 28.
Thank you. Are there other questions for Mr. Bowen? All right, let me invite the applicant and/or the applicant's representative to come on up to the podium. And gentlemen, we'll need both of your names and addresses, please.
Absolutely. So Chase Adcox, 1904 University Boulevard.
I'm Pat Roberts at 3816 64th Street Northeast.
So a little bit of background on this, and thank you all for having us this evening. So Bobby's lived in Tuscaloosa for quite some time, and this has kind of been his dream to be in University Circle. So we're working with us on this project. So trying to bring it back to life, Pat and I also worked on several others on this street that are nearby. Getting the windows that are rotted out, replacing that vinyl siding that doesn't fit into the neighborhood, and then also keeping the roof line less than the two that are beside us. So that was the intent of the project, but Pat here drew the plan, so anything, detail-wise with that, I'll revert to him.
There was one thing I noted, when we had the first elevation go up,
I'm sorry.
right, here we go, with that first, the drawing, go back, there we go, here. I don't see any dimensions on the change in the roof height here. It's on
It's on
a
a- it's on
subsequent one, but it wasn't here.
It's on the rear, it's on the rear page where it shows the maximum eave height of the new roof extension.
Right, so we're looking at approximately 5-foot change, right? Is that what I understand here?
I'm sorry, so I'm
What's,
almost-
what's the difference in height? Just want to make sure I'm
We're
reading the
5
plan.
feet, About 5 feet, 2.5 inches.
Okay.
Give or take a little bit according to what we have to do to the floor system to get everything
It's
in.
okay. You've got a lot going on here, so
Sure.
just a few questions, I guess. I mean, I can start off for the group if you like. One of the things I was kind of wondering about, let me see here, the proposed elevation, let's see, that's the existing rear. Do we have, there we go with the existing front. Okay, so with the dormer windows, we've got a band right above where, in the proposed, right above where it says dormer windows, we have a band running across there. And that is siding? Is that the break in the roof?
There will be a strip of siding underneath the cornice. If you go to the proposed north or south, where you can
Yes,
see the
there's that
side,
change. Yep,
what we're doing is basically raising the roof to an 8-foot ceiling height. Right now, the ceiling height at the front wall, the attic's just, it's supposed to be bedrooms, but it's really not usable. The stairs are about 29 inches wide. And when you come into either room, the ceiling height on one side at the front of the house is at about 5 feet 4, and at the back of the house, it's at 4.5 feet. So they finished it out in the attic, but it's really not usable as space because you can touch the ceiling right in the center. So what we're going to do is expand the space corresponding with existing framing on the first floor so that we can match the floor system on top of the bearing points. So, and then go 8-foot ceiling height upstairs. So when we do that, we'll profile just through the roof approximately 14.5 inches. That's where the band is on the front side of that elevation drawing, and you can see that elevation difference
yep, we can see it.
right there, which says
And
new
can-
lap siding
If somebody
and
can
trim.
circle it for everybody to see. So
I'm sorry.
one thing we don't have on there, we don't have the height of that band. How big is that going to be?
We're going about 14.5 inches. is
Okay,
where
so
we're
this piece of siding,
about 6 inches of it's going to be the cornice. We don't have any overhang, so you'll see the cornice, frieze board, and then under that, there will be an expanse of siding. And we have a 7-inch exposure on the siding, about 6 inches of fascia, basically, which is the frieze on the edge of the house. So realistically, you're going to see about this much space above the roof, a little piece of siding, a little piece of fascia, the cornice at the eave line right there, at that point right there. So while it is, which was why I wanted to put the dormers up there, the dormers actually match the existing window on the right and the existing door on the left so that the dormer matched those two things, break up that line across the front, match every other house in the neighborhood where the dormers do just exactly that. When we did the house next door, we had a little bit different availability as far as the roof line went because we extended the back of the house 10 feet. So we could keep the same roof plane going all the way up and still have room to put the living space back into it.
Right.
Here, we can't go back any further, else we're going to be, it creates structural issues in the ceilings downstairs, so we can't get to the same bearing points.
Sure, understood. So you guys worked on the adjacent properties, was that right? Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
So then one other question, just because there's a lot happening here. When you look at the adjacent properties, they have dormers, and they're set back, from the roof line a certain amount. There we go. How will this proposal, is this going to be roughly the same? You have the same amount of roof before you hit the dormer coming up? Or is it, I couldn't get a good sense of how your proposal, just related to these other two, because they're right side by side.
Sure. If you look at this, again, the north or the south view on the proposed, then you'll see where the offset and then the center porch extension sticks out. So
Right.
where we are right there, the front side of the dormer is moved out just far enough to be able to get the sill height and have a 3/6 window there. If I go out further, again, we're getting out into the ceiling where I can't really structurally put it together very well to support the dormer.
Right.
So it's still 12 feet back from the front eave of the house. And with the offset for the front, the center section, there's a gable pointing at the street right there, you can see on the plans. From that section, then you're another 5.5 feet. So realistically, the front of the dormer is back inside the house, about 15 feet from the front of the center gable section.
Okay.
So a lot further back than the neighbor.
Okay, that's what I was trying to sort of determine. So as we look at house,
Sure.
right, dormers, proposed dormers, I was just trying to get a sense, because we can't, from the application, because you don't have to provide drawings of the houses next door.
Right.
But I couldn't get a sense of how your dormers would compare in distance from the edge of the roof with these other two. And that's one of the things, it's going to be such a prominent feature
Sure.
as you go across that kind of rhythm of these dormers, that I couldn't tell if they were going to be more forward or they appear to be further back, and I was just wondering how that's going to appear.
If we keep looking at the houses, I'm sorry, I'm just
Yep.
thinking, looking at the houses down the road, if we could look at the Google Earth view, they're all a little bit different.
Yeah, and a little bit's fine. I mean, there's some variation. I just wanted to see what was happening with your
Sure.
particular dormers. You've got this sort of, so there was the distance of the dormers that was a concern. There's this band of siding that I was curious about, it kind of caught my eye. Because we don't want cookie cutter houses. We know that's not what
Oh, no,
happens here.
No, I understand.
Well, this is good.
If you look at 30 right next door, the dormers sit back approximately 8 feet back inside the house. That's why they've got the copper little flat roof, the short slope, in order to get back out onto the roof. Further down the line, some of them are a little bit different design. There's several different dormer designs. Again, because of the layout of the building underneath,
If you look at that one there, too.
yeah, because of the building underneath, there's conceptually, you're trying to figure out how you can structurally put this together without having to just take the entire house apart in order to accommodate it.
I'm starting to
So
get dizzy over there.
There's so many different back sets and dormer designs on the block that it's kind of hard to pick one that would work
Right.
just right.
So if we can take a little slow stroll back to the
You're making
house
me
that
dizzy.
we're discussing here. You guys are so good with this Google stuff, you go whipping through it really quickly. So the adjacent houses you both worked on.
Yes.
And
We-
that's why we went with the dormers, just to try to bring it back into parity with
Sure.
what we have going, so.
Okay. Those are the questions I have for the moment.
Okay. And also, just to keep in mind, 28 the peak of the roof that we created is 28 feet 6 above grade. The peak of this roof that we're going to create is 25 and some change. So we're a little bit below the peak of 28. We're substantially below the peak of 30 next door because the backside main gable is up there pretty tall. It's 30 feet about.
Yeah.
So we're trying to make sure we weren't overpowering anything as far as the height elevation.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's appreciated. Thank you.
It's going to have to be trimmed but not come down. And it's far enough away from the house where it's not going to interfere with us, except for the limb, the overhanging limbs. Part of that has to be gotten out of the way, or else it's going to be inside the house.
Can I see the front and side elevations again, please? My primary concern about this is this two-planed roof in the front. It makes it look like it's definitely an addition. The fact that you've got, it goes and it steps, and then the dormers are set back up there, and it looks like the sill height of the windows in the dormers are pretty high, like probably looks like maybe 5 feet to the sill of the window or something
No,
like
sir.
that.
It's
Go to the side elevation.
It's a 3036, so it'll be sitting where it is
Well, the
about-
bottom of the dormer is apparently at the sash height of the side window in this elevation.
Right, and that's a
So
3052.
whereabout is that off the floor?
A 3052 set at a 7-foot height. So it's
4
about,
feet to the bottom of the window.
no, a 5.2 window set with a top at 7 feet.
Okay,
So it's 1'8" off the floor, it's 20 inches off the floor. 5'2" plus 20 would be 7 feet, I think, if I'm not mistaken. 22 inches
Well-
off the floor. We're putting it's a 8-foot,
well, if that were the case, then this window on the side would have the bottom of its sill below the floor.
no, sir.
Where's the floor in this elevation?
The eave height that you see is at an 8-foot eave height. So there's a 12-inch header, and then the top of the window. The windows are set to the top of the header. So if you're starting from 7 feet at the header height and a 5'2" window underneath it, then we are, if I'm not mistaken, approximately 22 inches above the floor. Now, in the elevations, I wasn't trying to hide any of the particulars about how it's put together, but it's just it's typical 8-foot framing height, 92 5/8 studs on top of the floor system. So what you're seeing in the first floor addition as far as window height and sill height, that framing is old school framing, so that's actually an 8.5-foot wall height. So the eave height from the first floor is different than a typical 8-foot framing height, but we're going 8-foot typical framing at the second floor elevation. So the window that is going in the dormer is set same, and that's why the dormer's drawn, same eave height, starting from an 8-foot eave height, in order to put the moving out just far enough to get the sill height of a 3/6 window in it above the roof line.
Let me see the other side. Maybe there's something about the way that interacts with the, oh, this is the same.
I'm starting to get
Where
a
the,
little
where the dormer meets the roof at the bottom,
Yes, sir.
the window is not any lower, it's not sunken into the roof like 30,
No, sir.
correct?
It doesn't have a scupper underneath it, so the sill height is sitting probably where there's flashing right there above the roof. So it's just a 3/6 window height. That was as far out as I could go without compromising the floor system on the front side of the house or the roof structure and everything else. It's tedious to try and do all the projections and get to the perfect point where you can get a window in there that's useful, but at the same time, wanting some natural light upstairs and trying to get a window in there that will get some natural light. It's not a double hung window because of the fact that it's just a 3/6. It will likely be a casement window or a fixed window in that situation in order just to get the height where you can get it in the building without getting out into the roof.
Go
We
back to
didn't
the
want to
front. I'm sorry, if I had control over this, I would be able to look at it and not have to interrupt you.
No, I'm good.
I'm wondering, as you gentlemen are talking
Go
about
back to the
this,
side.
can you, Mr. Morris, I'm wondering if you could maybe direct Mr. Roberts to draw.
It's the head of the head of the window in the dormer is right there at the edge of the fascia. Can we agree on that, based on the front elevation?
The,
Circle this
Go to the
area.
front.
say that to me again.
Go to the front elevation. Okay. So you said that where the edge of the new roof is, where it steps up, that's at 8 feet.
Yes, sir.
So those the new dormer windows, those heads would be a few inches below 8 feet to the head.
Would be sitting at about 7'6".
Okay. And how tall are those windows?
3'6",
So the sill is at 4 feet.
about
Okay.
4 feet off the floor.
All right. Turn the corner. So the head of this 3052 is at what height?
It's 7. Just under a 12-inch header.
I guess where I'm going with this is there's a lot of there's a lot of kind of, I don't want to use the word haphazard, but there's not a lot of rhythm and order to the window sizes and where they are and the heights, and it steps up and down and all of that from the sides and front. And so I'm trying to wrap my head around the rationale for why one is one way and others are another way. And
Would
so,
you like us to mimic the slot window to the same window that's there, the 305?
I mean, it really,
The rationale is that in order to get the window in the dormer, in order to get the window in the dormer, the front wall of it has to be moved out further and further in towards the front of the house into the roof. So in doing that, I have to figure out how to restructure what's going on there ceiling-wise underneath it. So the further I go, it just kind of magnifies the difficulty in trying not to compromise what's going on with the front part of the house, because we're not really wanting to mess with that a whole lot. So that's why the window is set a little higher, and it is a shorter window so that we can get out of the roof but not have the copper scupper roof underneath it, where you have wells underneath the window like are on 30. 30 has wells underneath the window, so it is below the roof line in order to get the windows in there, but it profiles further out into the house. But 30 was completely dismantled and rebuilt, so they were able to put the floor system together however they wanted to. This is just a way of breaking up the front of the house and make it match, and 2, get some daylight into what are going to be 2 bedrooms upstairs. So all of those things, knowing full well that there's not ever going to be a projection where you could stand in the front yard and compare the height of the dormer windows at the head to the side windows at the head because of the plantings and the close proximity of the other buildings. It's hard to get a sight line on any of it. So again, I know that they're set at a different head height.
well, and I don't have a 3D of this to consider that. I mean, we're
No, I
looking at these
understand that.
elevations.
No,
so-
I understand that the 3D drawings would be great. They're not necessarily part of what I was asked to provide. I was asked to provide the drawings based on the side elevations and the roof line projections and all of that sort of thing. I thought you would be more concerned about the backside of the house than you were about the height of the.
No, I
the
have
height of the
major
dormers.
concerns about how this looks like a tacked-on addition on the front of the house with the step. That's my primary concern about this entire case. Every other one of these houses in here has dormers, and it has this appearance of a story and a half. All of them, the entire front plane of the roof is in one plane. Maybe that's a circumstance of these other houses and the ability to make that work. And this house doesn't have that ability. You convinced me pretty well that it's a difficult situation to make work.
Sure.
There's a lot that goes into how all this wants to fit together. But that my primary concern is that the dormers sit up high. There's a lot of roof between their sills and where the front eave is, and that strip of siding across the front. So that's really my primary issue.
Well, let me add.
But I'm one commissioner.
Well, let me add, I appreciate all of the thought that goes into this and all the constraints you have in doing a renovation to a house like this. I always bring it back to the design guidelines and looking at the adjacent properties and other things we see here. And I'm not going to be as articulate as Mr. Morris was, but when I looked at the elevations, the first thing I saw was the band of siding across the front where the roof line breaks, right? It's in a black and white drawing, it's just a line. But when you think that you've got a black roof and white siding, it's going to become a lot more prominent when it's built. And I have a really hard time reconciling that little bit. I'm not here to offer a solution to it. I'm just saying that if I look at design guidelines and I think about compatibility visually with neighboring properties, I have a problem with that, and I would love to be convinced otherwise. I also have a little concern with the I'm going to call it the setback, for a better word, of the dormers in front. I don't have an objection to the dormers in principle at all. It's just the location seems a little off to me, and I can't really tell if it's a proportional thing or whether it's just because of the neighboring structures. But those are the two things that I have the most issue with. If I were to rank them, it's that siding that bothers me the most in this. The dormers bother me less so, but Mr. Morris made a number of good points about that. Those are my thoughts, and I'd love to hear if other commission members have questions or thoughts with this. One of the things with an application, applicants want to be able to present as much information as they can so we can make a good informed decision and we can look at the stuff ahead of time and then talk to you about what we see. And there are a few little things here and there that I didn't fully have the information on. It's good having you guys here to talk to us about it. I'm not saying that you needed to provide a 3D rendering, but if it helps make a case, I think the applicant should think in those terms of how do you present your project in the best light. And I don't want to say you have to go out and hire someone to do that, but just sort of think about in terms of clarity of what you want to do, because there's a lot happening here, and it's ambitious in a good way, right? You've done great work in that neighborhood already. I find with this that change in the front facade to me is a little jarring. But those are just my thoughts, and like Mr. Morris, I'm just one commission member. I would really like to know what the others think if they have other questions for you, or if you guys have some thoughts.
To the advantageous, you would have to, if you wanted to profile the roof line, drop the front head height in the upstairs, or,
So am I right, this is currently got white vinyl siding and we're taking that off? Does
Correct,
that go- What are we going back there with?
Hardy board siding.
Hardboard?
Yes, sir.
And the dormers, do they have the lap siding in there as
They do.
well? And how does the dormer roof line tie into the break in the roof line? What, is it right at that level where
Same eave height.
this, okay.
Yes, sir. Same eave height so that it's continuous cornice all
And
the way
you said-
around the dormer.
You said there's no overhang here on the roof over the little 6-inch break, right?
No, sir. The whole house is zero overhang, just the freeze board and shingle strip.
Are we replacing the big window in the front?
Yes, with
All the
replacement.
windows.
And the big window in the front, is that going back same?
Same light pattern, same everything, they're just all rotted out. Yes, sir.
And what about the little vent over the window? Is that being replaced, or is it the original wood?
It's original. I think it's going to stay. It's intact.
Can we see the house picture of the front of it? What about the molding that's on that front gable? Does that, and then I see it looks like there's a gutter, so that gutter will stay at the bottom of that roof line? Take it? And then will there be any molding or gutter, or what will be right below in that little 6-inch area? Will it just be the shingle and then you say there's a piece of cornice, or?
There's part of this that makes it hard to get a good picture of what's going on because likely there is wood siding that was put in originally on the house, and the trim boards around the windows were flush with the edge of the lap siding. When they came back and did vinyl over it, they put their J-mold on top of the trim around the windows. So their vinyl siding goes right directly to the edges of the windows. They covered up all of the trim. So when that all comes off, you'll see that there is wood trim around all of the windows that is going to go back. If it is rotten, we'll replace it with hardy or wood if we have to, but all of the trim will be back as it was originally on the windows because we're getting rid of the vinyl. They just ran it. It was easier because of the fact that at the time when they were building the houses.
But is that trim that's that's in the gable there, is that original?
Yes, sir. All that is a piece of, there's a piece of trim at the top of the 6-inch fascia board. And that's why you can see underneath that, you can see that the vinyl actually sticks out beyond the fascia board because there's a piece of J-mold up there right up underneath.
And that would
Just
remain.
go back, I know you said it, but I may need it explained a little bit for me, because I don't know, not as detailed on this. But in terms of what I'll call the upper section of the roof, it comes, it stops, it turns, and then I think you said that section's about a foot before we get to the lower section of the roof?
It's about 14 inches of elevation between, right there where it says new lap siding and trim, proposed dormer. That's what that is showing you right there, is that is the face of the wall
And I take
projection.
it that the bottom 6 inches is a piece of lap hardy board, and then the 6 inches above that, what is that trim or fascia or whatever?
6-inch trim like fascia with the little trim detail at the top of it, trying to mimic everything
The
that you see
same
at the first floor.
sort of trim detail that's on that front gable?
Yes, sir. That's what we're trying to do on all of it, is make it to where everything that's up there now gets back to where it doesn't have any. And again, it's, without looking at pictures really up close, it's hard to get an idea of what I'm saying, but I know you've looked at a lot of these old houses. The trim on the outside of the windows, the siding profiled flat with the trim. So when they ran vinyl, they just ran it right directly across the window trims and put J-mold right beside the edges of the windows. And that's why it looks like it has no trim on it. Well, when all that siding comes off, you'll see that every one of those windows has a 6-inch piece of trim all the way around it. They all have, they're all case
That
typical.
trim will be exposed, and that trim will be replicated on the dormers?
Exactly. And downstairs too. Everything we take off, we're going to make sure that all those trim
Match
pieces.
that same trim profile underneath that roof edge?
Yes, sir.
So just a couple comments and question is, it appears to me that the footprint of the house, you're trying to maintain it, and it's not expanding, is that right?
Except for the laundry room, proposed laundry, the 6 by 9, 8, right there on the north side of the building. We're not changing anything footprint though.
But, okay, you're adding that piece, right? Okay. It seems to me you're trying to do a lot with the existing footprint, and I think you've come up with a pretty ingenious solution to get it. I'm somewhat
Thank you.
surprised there's a room already up there looking at the pictures.
It was surprising when you go up and look at the room also. It's, like I said, when we did 28, we expanded the back of the building 10 feet.
Right.
So we had extra headspace and roof line. So upstairs in 28, there's 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and a sitting room. It's just a bunch of space. And we were able to maintain that same roof plane because of the fact that we had so much space behind it. Here, because of the way this house has had numerous additions done to it in the past. So structurally, there's some hurdles to get to where you can put room up there and expand the space. We're expanding the space and raising the roof line in order to accommodate it. Which is why on the back of the building, we are expanding the gable that is pointing at the back of the house, because between, and if that's on a different elevation, if you show me those pictures. Picture the back side of the house. The gable that you see stood up right there, the flat roof on the porch, behind that is another section of 2.5 pitch roof that used to be the porch on the other side of the wall where those big glass windows are and the big glass door. That used to be an exterior porch. So that's about a 2.5 pitch that runs all the way to the original framing line of the house. We're building to the original framing line of the house. We're going to raise the wall there and expand that gable so that we can get rid of the flat roof in there and run it all the way back to the new framing line so it's all under one roof. Which is kind of it does a lot of things. It means we can, right now there's a sloped ceiling in the interior of the house and a sloped floor because it used to be a porch. Well, the ceiling is the roof. So
Can we see the proposed for the back there? Because it makes a lot of sense. I think it cleans up the back end. of
and
the
you can
house.
see the expanded gable. So the expanded gable, the shed roof that is over the porch is going to stay. We're not messing with that. But at the existing short gable that is there, that was an addition, the ridge that is to the right of that was an addition. And so we're going to get back to where we can put the whole thing, get rid of the shed roofs back there because it's leaking, and make it where it's got a proper roof that covers the whole thing, and then the house looks like it's under one roof again, which is, it doesn't add any square footage space inside the house. That roof section doesn't. It just makes it where it's not going to have the leak issues that it does anymore, and it looks better.
Yeah, that's where I was going. I think for maintaining the footprint and working with what you've got and trying to make it useful space, you've come up with a fairly ingenious design. Now, whether it meets the design guidelines and fits in all that other,
Sure, I understand that.
I see the intent, and I see from the constructability, you work with what you had.
Trying my best. 24 University Circle was kind of the same way, but we were just able to go towards the back side of the building and expand the roof line to get space in the attic. So we've done several of them, and they're always a trick to try and figure out how to get it to where it's not creating a monster that doesn't fit. But that's why I wanted to put the dormers on the front of the house so that it does kind of match back in. If you look at, and I would have to count in my head, I think it is 32 or 33, that profile on the front of that house is a little bit different than all of the rest of them. And it's got dormers that hit the roof edge, but they're out on the front wall of the building. So there's a lot of different dormer designs that are in the neighborhood. Ours just is a little bit different, just in the parameters of what we're trying to do inside the building.
Any other questions for the applicant?
Did I hear you say that there were already interior stairs up to that area?
They're 29 inches wide, and they're so steep, you've just about got to be a billy goat to get up them. The head height halfway up, I'm 5'9", and I have to duck when I start getting up to the top because it's, I don't know why they did it, but they framed it just as an afterthought. But, yeah, so we're all of that access and usability. The upstairs is literally, it's an accident waiting to happen. Somebody fall down the stairs and break their neck.
Okay, and did I hear you say that that was a fixed window in that dormer? Was that gonna be a,
If we can get a casement window in that same design, we'd rather have a casement window, but it's not
that's the
sashes.
only window in that bedroom upstairs?
No, ma'am.
No,
The-
there
both
only
ends of the
is.
building. Both ends of the building.
Okay,
So it's each side of that, if you can imagine, the stairs are closer to the center of the house. So one side is 16 feet for a bedroom. The other side winds up being 24 feet for a bedroom on the other side of the stairs. So the stairs are kind of centrally located. They're about in line with the 2052 window that's part of the triple right there on the front. They're kind of in line with that. On the other side of a wall. Again, it's inside the house, you can't see it, but
So can somebody remind me, in the proposal, what kind of windows do we have there for the dormers? They are static windows, they are double hung, they are casement, what do we have in the application?
we're replacing sash kits, PVC sash kits. So we're leaving the frames anywhere we're repairing where we have bad frames.
Right,
These are new windows.
but the
And we'll
the
put
dormer,
new-
but how are they opening? Are they opening, are they static, are they double hung? What are you guys proposing for the new windows?
They're not double hung
They're big
windows.
casement windows.
Oh, they're casement windows,
Yes,
okay.
to mimic the ones below. They all look the same.
Okay,
Same
that's
grid
good. I just wanted to
pattern,
make sure
same
that we were
design.
clear on that. So city staff, do you have that noted, casement? Okay, thanks. I just wanted to make sure, because
Sorry, my mistake.
Right, right.
Yeah,
it's totally okay. That's why we do this, right?
that's right.
There's a lot going on, but we're doing pretty much the entire building in order to kind of fix it. It hadn't been fixed on it. in
Right.
It
long
needs a
time.
lot of love, so.
There's a lot going on. And I have to say, I enjoyed the pictures taken from the roof. That was a nice addition to the packet, so thank you for providing those. Are there any other questions for the applicant? Thank you. So if something may come up again, so just be
Whatever
prepared to
you need.
come on back up if we have other questions. So we've had two comments submitted from the public via email that are in support of this project. Is there anyone here to speak in support of or opposition to the application? All right, let me close the floor to public comment, and let's open the floor to discussion by commission members. We've gotten a lot of information from the applicants tonight. I know the drawings can be a little confusing. I hope we have clarity on that, but if anybody has any questions or concerns, now's the time to bring it up.
I think that it is probably going to look like an addition, but it falls into the category, to me, of an addition that could have happened previously to make that second floor work. I think if it's trimmed out the same as the other gables, I think it might look okay. I've got, I think, the same concerns, but, this is what we ask people to do, is to make an old house work and be largely consistent with the existing facade.
I'm just going to have to disagree. I mean, the more I've thought about this since these packets were released, I've really tried to find any other house built at any time that would have this on it, and I can't get there. I think that the dormers are mounted too high and too far to the back. I understand the constructability issues there. As far as the rationale for it, it is not my responsibility, job, or duty, or I'm not within the power to design this from here. I see a solution that would resolve this. But if this is what other commission members find acceptable, then I don't have I mean, we're not going to have a showdown outside. So, I mean, but I definitely have major concerns about stepping this roof on the front plane.
And I will say, this is why we have a commission of peers, because people read these differently and they interpret the design guidelines in certain ways and, see how things will work. I have very similar issues as Mr. Morris. I had them from the time I looked at the packet, and even more so as time has gone on, thinking about it, and then having more conversation here. I just don't see that split in the roof line as being compatible with what's going on in the neighborhood, but that's what I see. And in my reading of the design guidelines, what I see is that it's not really compatible with adjacent structures. I appreciate what they're doing. I loved, Mr. Cox, that you asked about the trim around the windows. That was a lot of really good information, and it made me very happy to hear that the applicants are being sensitive to these details. That said, I still have an issue with the overall placement of the dormers. Mr. Morris said it more articulately than I can about the height and the setback or something of them, but I have trouble with the band of siding across that. But again, I am one person here, and I'm happy to hear what other people think, but if nobody has any comments, we do have a standing motion to approve, and we can go ahead and we can vote on this. Ms. Watson, did you have a question?
No, I feel the same way. Visually, there's something going on. It's not really jumping out at me exactly what, but I don't think it's necessarily pleasing to the eye. I'm wondering, I'm sort of like the others, that is it something you're going to get used to after it's there for a short while, and then it fits into the neighborhood and with the trees and shrubbery? Is it gonna, throw out at you that it was I guess an addition, over the long haul? I'm not sure. I've got questions as well, but I do think it meets the guidelines. I do think that he's done a very good job with what he's had to work with. So.
Yeah, there are always
That's where I was going.
always constraints, yeah.
Is working with the house he's got.
Right.
And trying to make it fit in well, which I think he spent some effort with the dormers. Exact locations, that doesn't really bother me that much. The split with the roof, I don't know. It's not something I'm totally against. It's just trying to make it work with the house it's got. It is a remodel. I think some effort has gone into it to make it match the rest of the neighborhood.
I think there are some core good ideas here. I have heard, though, from commission members phrases like, it might look okay, or in time, over the long haul, maybe it will fit in, all right? These are questions, we can't answer that now. Like, we could just go with what we have. So, I mean, I think we've really talked this out, and we have, gentlemen, I will say, like, it's an ambitious project, and you've given a lot of really good thought here. So that has been echoed by the commission members. A few of us have expressed a few concerns here. That said, others have expressed some support. If we are ready, we have a standing motion to approve, and we can vote. Hearing nothing, we're going to move on. So, standing motion to approve HPC 4523, Bobby Tesney petitions for a certificate of appropriateness for an addition and exterior alterations to the primary structure located at 29 University Circle in the University Circle Historic District. And we shall vote. Beginning on my right, please. Mr. McCool.
I vote yes.
I note that the overall scope of this project is going to improve this house significantly in my view, and I find it to be sufficiently appropriate, and I vote yes.
I vote yes.
No.
Do I need to go ahead and give a reason, or do I only need to give a reason if the motion fails? Well, I don't want to if I don't have to yet. No.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, gentlemen, your application has been approved this evening. Good luck with your project. And guys, you know, if anything changes, please see city staff before you move ahead. Good luck with your project. There will be a final inspection. Have a good evening.
Next case is HPC 4623, Madison Bentley, petitions for a certificate of appropriateness to replace an existing fence on the property at 306 17th Avenue. This is in the Pinehurst Historic District, Council District 4. So here we have the location of the property. And this is property view from 17th Avenue. Here we have the adjacent northern and southern and western properties. So this proposal is to replace an existing wood lattice fence. They're going back with a slat wood fence. They have confirmed that the existing fence is 8 feet tall, so they are asking for approval for an 8-foot tall fence. So again, here is the primary structure. This is the existing fence. It's located in the rear side yard. Here we have a closer up image that shows the height of that fence. This is an example of what the new fence will look like, wood slat with a cap. And here we have the location, that orange little segment to show it's in the rear yard, side yard, and the materials are wood. We did not receive any public comment for this application. We do have a representative here in person.
Any questions for Mr. Bowen? Thank you very much. Let me invite the applicant's representative to come up. And we'll need your name and address for the record, please.
Madison Bentley, 608 Kirkwood Drive, Northport, Alabama.
Thank you. Ms. Bentley, is there anything else we need to know about this project?
Not really, no.
It's fairly self-explanatory.
Yeah, we removed that because they redid the grass back there. That's why you probably didn't see it when you went to look. But I was like, I'm not touching a fence back here until we go to the HPC because of last time. So we did put it on hold I was like, I'm not pushing their buttons. They were very nice to us. So we're going to do it the right way.
Well, we're happy to see you again.
Yeah.
And thank you. Do we have any questions for Ms. Bentley? All right, thank you so much. We've received no public comment. Is there anyone here to speak in support of or opposition to the application? I'll close the floor to public comment, open the floor to conversation by commission members. Fairly straightforward application. Everything is appropriate.
I'll go ahead and say, I mean, the height of the fence is often a discussion point for us. This is kind of tucked back in their backyard where it's not prominent. The height of it is not obtrusive in any way. There's an existing fence that's already been there. It's making it obvious that it is not so. So I take no issue with the height of the fence matching existing.
Yes, so we do have a standing motion to approve. We will move ahead with that. Standing motion to approve HPC 4623, Madison Bentley petitions for a certificate of appropriateness to replace an existing fence on the property located at 306 17th Avenue in the Pinehurst Historic District. Voting, Dr. Nelson.
Yes.
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 Ms. Bentley, your application has been approved this evening. Go forth and build the fence. If anything changes or if you have any questions or concerns, please see city staff. There will be a final inspection, and good luck with your project.
Next case is HPC 4723, Austin Markham petitions for a certificate of appropriateness for alterations to the front yard landscaping and for the removal of a tree. This is at 1025 Myrtlewood Drive in the Myrtlewood Historic District, Council District 4. So here we have the aerial view of the property as well as its location. This is a view of the property from the Myrtlewood Drive. Here we have the adjacent northern and western properties. So the applicant, since the packets were posted, they did receive expedited approval for the Japanese boxwoods that you'll see in their site plan, and also for the tree removal. They had an arborist come out, provided an arborist letter. So they have received approval. So the only thing before you tonight is the low stack stone curb wall. It's around the front yard. It's approximately 14 inches. So again, here we have a view of the primary structure. And this is a view showing the existing landscape and what it looks like currently. Here we have just a different view of the front yard landscaping. And this is their proposed wall. So it's a stone curb wall that's going to go entirely around the front yard, keeping the front two steps and walkway here in this section with the addition of two small steps besides the driveway. And then here we have just a site plan that shows the location, the exact location of where the stone wall would be located. Also shows you where that tree was removed and then those Japanese boxwoods. Here we have the applicable design guidelines. We did not receive any public comment for this application. We do have the representative here in person.
Great. Any questions? Thank you, Mr. Bond. Let me invite the applicant to come on up to the podium, and please state your name and your address.
Good evening. Austin Markham, 5970 Watermelon Road, Northport, 35473.
Thank you. What else can you tell us about the project?
Basically, we have a sloped lawn whenever the family or guest drive and park into the parking area there. There's a slope that is kind of an issue hazard by walking up it and possibly slipping. They have, the customer has stated that they have had some people fall. So basically, we want to reclaim that area, give a little bit more area to park and exit and enter the vehicles, as well as an additional staircase to the left there. So basically, just kind of cutting back the soil, easy to maintain, better aesthetics.
Can we
safer.
see the existing? Just, so I noted that when we saw the.
So you see the tire tracks. We're just trying to eliminate that. And as you know, you enter or exit the vehicle, there's a slope there. So we want to try to point the guest or homeowner into a staircase that's just easier to access. The reason for stacked stone is we're not going to be able to find that brick. Don't want to paint it, so I figured natural stone would be a good alternative.
Any questions? Thank you so much. Appreciate that. We have received no public comment on this one. Is there anyone here to speak in support of or opposition to the application? We close the floor to public comment. So we're just considering that low stacked wall because it kind of neatens up the property, the front of the property there.
Do we actually have a photo of the stacked stone? Is there?
Was there anything in the packet? I don't remember now.
We tried to.
That's a drawing, that's not it,
Mm-hmm.
right?
We basically took the 3D software that we use and basically we took our 3D software and basically we copied and pasted and tried to replicate the stone in a 3D rendering, but we don't have an absolute picture of the actual stone.
So it's not a cinder block look, is it?
Absolutely not.
That's what I can't really differentiate from that drawing.
No, it's kind of like an ashlar. It's not going to be dry stacked. It's going to be a mortared. It's going to be cohesive with the earthy tones of that antique brick, browns, grays, tans. So aesthetically, it's going to blend, I believe.
Thanks for clarifying that. That was a good question. Yeah, thank you. So we have a natural stone being used, mortared, so it's not going to fall down. I think that was great. And the colors too, natural stone in, as you said, the browns, the grays.
Is that caps on the tops of these corners? Is it, you see where there's a, at the end?
Mhm.
Is that just like a marble cap or
Well, you know-
cement cap? Or what kind of cap is that? Your light's sitting on a couple of the little caps.
That's right.
What's the other? Is that what is that? Looks different.
Correct. It'll be a similar sandstone. I guess in this drawing, it does appear a little bit lighter, but it will blend in and look aesthetically like the wall. There's just different variations in stone, so if I was to show you a picture of a particular palette, that palette could vary depending on where that quarries the stone. And it's going to be minimal, but that's the technical side of it. But it's going to be similar stone in look, texture, and appearance.
Thank you. Did you want to ask a question about the light fixtures?
What?
Did you want to ask a question about the light fixtures?
I was going to leave that to you.
Well, 'cause I actually had forgotten in the application, do we have the light fixtures in there? No, we don't have the light fixtures in there. Come on back. Tell us about the light fixtures.
So I think there's a copper lantern right above the entryway there. So it's going to be in like nature to that. I don't think that we could replicate that exact lantern, or maybe we didn't think to replicate it, but it will be replicated so that we have a good overall design so that it just doesn't stick out. So it will be in likeness to what is existing to the house.
The scale that you have in the drawing seems appropriate to me.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to mimic close to the lantern on the front of the house.
So let me ask city staff, just really briefly, we have light fixtures in the drawing here, right, that we're considering, but we don't have any mention of them in the packet. So how do we handle that tonight? I think maybe I'll ask,
I thought you were asking Jonathan about.
well, I'm sort of throwing it over in that general direction.
The, ultimately, it's to the commission to determine if you have enough information to approve the application that's been presented. If there are any stipulations that you would want to put on any part of that approval, such as for the light fixtures here tonight, it would be to the commission, within the commission's discretion to do that.
Is it sufficient to say of similar scale and design as what is presented here? Because I can't give you a height of those light fixtures or dimensions of the light fixtures looking at the drawing, but I can talk about scale, relative scale to the wall.
So, I mean, something in the nature of saying of similar scale and design as shown in the drawing submitted,
Okay.
I think.
I want to make sure.
Will
All right.
get you where you're trying to go.
Yeah, I didn't catch that until tonight with Dr. Nelson asking questions about the little specifics there. So thank you for asking that stuff.
But we can't mention anything about the color.
No, color's not part of it, but we can still, with these light fixtures, still talk about
Yes.
the scale, the design.
Yeah, as contractor, we would be in agreement with that, as well as the homeowner would be. That's the overall goal.
Well, and having this particular image is really helpful, so thank you for putting that together
Yeah,
for us.
absolutely.
All right. Okay, I think maybe you can sit down for good now.
I'll be back if you need me.
All right, but you never know.
So, city staff, could you go back to the other street view? That one's one back. In your research, are there any other examples in the Myrtlewood neighborhood of knee walls or curb walls or anything of that sort?
We didn't see any similar to this proposal. They're all sloped similar to this house at 1025, but we didn't find any other knee wall or stone wall around the property.
So this would be an outlier in the Myrtlewood neighborhood.
Any other questions, comments?
I would just note, should this be approved, it's, obviously, this is a 14-inch landscaping wall and not a front yard fence.
And there are walls of this sort of a retaining wall elsewhere in the district, though
There are.
though not in Myrtlewood.
Right. And the other ones are not always in neighborhoods where you have a bunch of them either. They can be a sort of individual wall as well.
It's
So,
miscellaneous.
yeah, so it's a good point to make.
Audubon,
Audubon was one.
Guildswood.
Yep, the Audubon was one that came to mind right away. Guildswood's another one. Good discussion, guys. All right, so we have a standing motion to approve HPC 4723, Austin Markham petitions for a certificate of appropriateness for alterations to the front yard landscaping. I don't need to mention the removal of the tree. On the property located at 1025 Myrtlewood Drive in the Myrtlewood Historic District. And we shall vote. Let's begin on my left. Dr. Nelson?
Yes.
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 Your application has been approved this evening, gentlemen. Good luck with your project. Should anything change, and we were adding the stipulation with this, the fact, about the light fixtures being of appropriate size and scale as represented in the drawing. Size, scale, and design, right? But should anything change, please come back and talk to city staff. There will be a final inspection. Good luck.
Next case is HPC 4823, Craig Denny petitions for a certificate of appropriateness for exterior alterations to the primary structure and for the addition of a carport on the property at 1405 Queen City Avenue in the Druid City Historic District, Council District 4. So here we have an aerial view of the property as well as its location. This is a view of the primary structure from Queen City Avenue. And this is the adjacent northern property. So this proposal will go through various drawings that were submitted by the applicant. On the rear of the property, they are replacing existing patio doors. They're removing and replacing existing windows. They're also replacing an existing driveway and parking pad with a new covered carport. They're altering their driveway. The drawings very clearly indicate this and will show this, so we'll go through each example. The landscaping alterations is for a wooden front yard fence. You'll see a brick side and rear yard fence, stone and brick water fountain, as well as a backyard patio with outdoor living room, fireplace. So we'll just start with the drawings, and then we can also pull up the packet if you need to see a little bit more detail. So again, here we have the primary structure view from Queen City Avenue. It's just a little bit different angle to show the entryway to the house. This is the existing gravel driveway that leads back to a parking pad. Here on the opposite side of the house, we have an existing stone paver path. This is getting around to the rear of the house, so that existing wooden deck is going to be removed. This parking pad will also be removed. And this fence right here is just an example of the fence that they have. So here are some of the drawings that were provided by the petitioner. As you can see, they're replacing the existing door. They're going back with more operable door system. They're also removing those windows, which appear to be non-original to the house, removing the deck. They're just calling out all those things that they are removing from the property itself. Here again, we have a site survey that essentially covers the same thing we covered in the previous slide, going over what is existing and what of the existing is to be removed. This is the proposed site plan, and we will start with this front landscaping portion. So right along here is the proposed wooden fence. It runs right along that front property line. This section all here is in the right-of-way. So that is going through a separate process. Currently, all of this is concrete. That is a separate process, but for the front yard, it's the wooden fence. Starting back towards this way, we have a brick and stone fence that links into the water fountain. We have a couple different angles that'll show this a little bit more detailed. Back in this corner is a proposed carport, and then you have the extension of the patio with the outside kitchen. So looking at this example, here is the proposed fountain wall and brick fencing. So it's 6 feet. At its height here, roughly 8 feet. This down here is going to be the proposed front yard fence. And then here we have the concrete walk, brick banding. Moving into the rear, this is just a site overlay showing the new carport location, the rear yard. This image that we'll see next will show that a little bit clearer. This is calling out all those different changes that we've discussed previously. So this is that new wall or the new door system. They removed windows here in this location, going back with a wood or aluminum clad wood window. And then you have that expanded patio section. This down here, we have the proposed carport. The materials are going to match those that are already existing on the primary structure. You have brick support, wooden beams, and then metal roof to match the primary structure. All right, and this is just another angle that shows all those changes we just talked about. So we've got a pretty comprehensive view of what's altering from the rear of the property. Materials, aluminum or wood clad wood windows and doors, brick wall, wooden fence, concrete pavers, the covered carport, painted brick, metal roof, as well as cedar post. And here are some of those spec sheets. The reason the applicant can confirm if it's wood or aluminum clad wood windows, the spec sheets that were provided were for both. And here we have a little bit more detail about the spec sheets provided, the bricks to be used, the pavers to be used, as well as an example of that front yard fence. And here we have a couple examples of the landscaping options and planting options they plan to use. And the packet has much more information about all the planning material. Here we have the applicable design guidelines. We did receive at least one comment in support of the application. We have a representative here to speak in person.
Can we go back to a photo of the front elevation, if you don't mind? And I want to use the photograph rather than the site plan because...
Almost there.
Almost there.
Yeah.
Almost. There we go. So show me here where that fence is going to be.
It is our understanding the fence is going to run right along the front of this portion here. I will also let the applicant confirm the exact location.
And the plans show 3 feet 6 inches, is that correct?
I think 36 inches, right at 36
Oh,
inches.
36, okay.
The height, right, yeah. And it is going to be located entirely on their property. Everything you see this way is right-of-way, public right-of-way. So that's probably why the location of the fence is close to the front of the house.
Do we have a photo of that property from the street?
This is, we could probably pull one up on Google Images. This is standing in front of the house. All of this is existing concrete. So when we took this picture, it was right at the curb of the road. Everything, the site plan shows it, if you could pull that up. The site plan shows it quite well. I don't know why that is, but there is a large section of right-of-way in this area, And so for any alterations to that specific portion of the property, which they're removing the concrete to go back with grass, we can't approve it. It's a separate process, so that's why they have to go through a different process because of that right of way. I don't know if I have an answer for that, and we can ask the applicant if they know.
Because it would affect the appearance of the fence.
Of the fence, correct. All right, any more questions for staff? Okay, thanks.
Can we go back to the, sorry, are you guys pulling up the Google thing? Can we just see the front of the house one more quick time? Go ahead.
What is the 6-foot gate and fence in front of the cart storage? Do we have a rendering of that?
We did not have a close-up of the cart storage. Essentially, that would function like a gate or fence, which I believe they have it called out. They have not confirmed the material of that fence.
Or the design?
Or the design.
Let's see.
Where is that gate in relation to that wall at the back of the porch?
So right in this section here, we may have a picture that shows it, but there is an existing gate and fence. I believe it's currently a chain link fence, but that would be in that location of where that cart path would be.
Can we go back and look at the site plan? I just looked at see where that fence is located. Okay.
Yeah, so just, they're replacing an existing fence. Okay, cool. Are there any other questions for city staff? All right, may I invite the applicant or the applicant's representative to come up, please? Good evening.
Hey.
We'll need your name and your address, please.
Okay, Holland Payne, 1900 Manassas Avenue.
Well, thank you for coming this evening.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of discussion about, for me anyway, about that front fence and gate.
Yes.
There's nothing else like it in the neighborhood, and it seems so close to the structure. I'm kind of curious about the rationale.
Absolutely. The right-of-way was part of the concern, and so originally, obviously for curb appeal, taking the asphalt concrete up was #1 priority, replacing it with grass. Our optimum would be to have the fence out on the right-of-way, like similar houses along Queen City. And so to have, to have that would be optimum. But instead, what we did, it's not right up against what looks like, can you go to the front photo? And you might can see on the overhead floor plan that there's actually a walkway, so it'd be more of like a manicured little garden that leads from your driveway in that would have stepstones in. This would be on the other side of that. So it would be away from the front steps. You actually come out, the steps would be reconfigured. You can see now there's sort of an awkward depths. And so those would be reconfigured, and then you would have about 36 inches until your, until the fence.
Okay, so if we, let's talk like the bottom step going up into the house. Where's the fence in relation to that? Just trying to
Well,
get an idea.
with the proposed new steps, that there looks like 24 inches. So if you back that up slightly, if you back that up 9 inches, you would come off 36. So let's say 28 inches off of that front step.
Coming toward the
The
right.
way, as pictured.
Right, yeah, because I just,
Yeah.
we've got this photo now, and this, it helps me sort
Yeah.
of understand. So if we moved, did you say like about 24 inches from that bottom step away from the house, that's where the fence will be?
Yeah.
Approximately,
Yeah,
approximately.
29, something like
Yeah,
that.
and that helps me
And
because, yeah, the
You would have enough room to have your existing bed, a manicured landscape, a walking path, a row of boxwoods, and then your fence. So I think where he may have originally drawn it is not where this concrete wall is.
And what is the height from the ground up to the floor of the porch?
I'm going based off of, I don't have anything written down, but I'm thinking that as about 42 inches. And
32?
so 42.
42.
Yeah.
So the sort of open rails that are proposed for the front would be lower.
Lower than the porch. Yes.
What is the rationale for that fence?
For curb appeal, for privacy, to give a little bit of intimacy, you're quite open to Queen City right there, and there's lots of people walking by constantly, and so to give just a little bit of a barrier other than someone sitting on game day, sitting on your front porch.
I'm sorry, you're saying that
I
the,
can add to that, which is, it just helps make a barrier between the foot traffic. Often they're drunk and
Yeah.
they have beer cans and they will
They
put
set
them
it.
in your Japanese boxwoods.
Right.
The fence offers a little bit of protection, I would think.
Yeah. So it's, aesthetic as well as functional.
and I'm sorry, you said that the deck of the porch is 42 inches above the
And
concrete?
don't quote me, I don't think so. Now, as I'm looking at it based on the steps, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You may be more like 38 inches, something like that, 38 inches off of that. But the height of our fence could adjust according, you know what I mean? Could adjust according to that. It's just something that 36 inch is a good privacy, privacy
I'm
height.
not sure it makes a big difference. Just looking at it, I think it's more like 28 inches.
I don't think so.
You
I think it's higher.
You think it's that high off the
Yeah,
concrete
I
there?
Yeah, it is. I mean, the steps should be about 7. They may be a little bit narrower than that. And if I've got 5, how many did I say? 7 of them. Then I'm right at 36, 38 inches, something like that.
Well, let's go around to the back. And would you like to just sort of give us a broad sweep of what's happening in the back?
Okay, so the existing porch and the existing back of the house is very haphazard additions. You have mixed materials. You have an old deck, this gravel driveway, and our idea is to bring it up, bring up the aesthetic appeal of it. And so we hope to, right now you've got mismatched windows throughout, and so we hope to relocate a couple you can see, remove existing, and then replace that back wall. What is now an oddly placed bedroom, to create an additional living space out of that. And so therefore, the nano wall, which is quoting a specific brand, the nano wall would run along that. And I don't know if y'all are familiar with that system at all, but basically it's accordion doors that collapse upon each other. That way you can have a completely open, It's good for entertaining.
Any other items you'd like to highlight for us, or?
No, I mean, the surfaces, as far as the quality of surfaces put in, it would be, you see we've got a raised patio with a rock, with fire rock pavers. So not just a concrete, platform, fireplace. So again, just adding value to the home. Yeah.
And then the windows, the nano windows are made of?
There'll be aluminum clad exterior, wood interior. Yeah. And similar for the other windows that are being replaced.
Okay, aluminum clad wood.
Yes.
Perfect. Any other questions?
Holly, would your intention for the front, the fence and everything, will it be affected in any way by whatever decision is eventually made about the right-of-way?
Say that one more time.
Will your plans for the front, the fence and everything, would the decision be affected in any way by the right-of-way? In other words, if, I know you're hoping it goes one way.
Yeah.
But if it doesn't go that way, would it affect the way you looked at what's being done to the front?
Absolutely. I think that if we were not able to replace the broken
Yes.
concrete, if we were not able to replace that with grass, there would be no reason to put a fence. There would be, you know what I mean? There would be no reason. We would obviously update landscaping and, make some other changes. As far as the front steps, we'd love to brick take the mismatched brick and, re-brick those. But, so I guess it would change that.
Well, I have to say that paved area is not very attractive.
No, it's not at all.
It really takes away from the house. So I do hope you're able to do that part of your proposal.
That wasn't a day school. I mean, I guess it was Pearson's Academy. I mean, people went to school there. I guess they parked is that right away, all the way down like that, or just that particular house?
I think it's just right there.
Just that one house?
It's really interesting, isn't it?
It's very
The history there, yeah.
And we approved the demolition of the annex of the school.
Yes.
Yes.
In commission, we do have confirmation, the city engineers have approved the work in the right-of-way, so that it will be grass.
Oh, good. This just happened?
It was in our records, we just
Okay.
happened to
All
refine it.
right, hot off the press. There you go. Some good news for tonight. Do we have any other questions for Ms. Payne? Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
We've received one submitted comment in support of the project. Is there anyone here to speak in support of or opposition to the application? Hearing none, I will close the floor to public comment and open the floor to comment by commission members. I will say that my initial concern with this huge project was with that front fence. I really had a problem with that because there is nothing else in the immediate neighborhood, adjacent properties, looking down Queen City. But listening to Dr. Davis and listening to this and understanding about the right-of-way and all of that, I have less of a concern with that. It's still, I'm not fully excited about it, but I do understand that once that grass gets in there, it's going to change the look, and that it's 3 feet. It's a 3-foot fence. So it's low.
It's low.
It's
Yeah.
low and it's open there.
Yeah.
There are rails. It's not an ordinary fence,
Right.
you know?
It's not for privacy.
No.
It's
It's a visual barrier.
You have a couple of advocates here. But I appreciate your opinion on this and your how you're viewing this. It helped me feel less uncomfortable with that fence.
I walk by there all the time, and it's also a question of that house versus the houses that follow it. I think it's actually a brilliant idea.
Hearing no further discussion, we have a standing motion standing motion to approve HPC 4823 Craig Denny petitions for a certificate of appropriateness for exterior alterations to the primary structure and the addition of a carport on the property located at 1405 Queen City Avenue in the Druid City Historic District. We shall vote. Dr. Nelson?
yes.
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 The application has been approved. Should anything change, see city staff before you move ahead. There will be a final inspection, and good luck.
Okay, thank you.
All right, moving on to our last case of the night, we have HPC 4923, Vance Ballard petitions for a certificate of appropriateness for material change to all windows on the primary structure. This is at 1201 Queen City Avenue in the Druid City Historic District, Council District 4. So here we have the aerial view of the property, as well as the location. This is a view from Alaka Place. Here we have the adjacent northern property and the adjacent eastern property. So the proposal, the applicant has replaced the former existing wood windows. The new windows that have already been installed, they are Anderson Series 100 FiberX windows. All the windows match the grid pattern, sizing, appearance of the original windows. Everything remained the same. These windows just got installed before coming to you all. So again, here we have a view of the primary structure, and we'll go around the property just showing a closer up view of those windows that were installed. And this is a view from the Queen City side, and just a closer up image of those windows. And this is so earlier in the year, you approved a pool proposal. On the left, you see the former windows. Sounds like we've got some outside.
We do. You're
Outside noise. So on the left-hand side, those were the existing windows, and on the right-hand side are the new windows. And this is just a side-by-side to show that the sizing, location, everything was intended to mimic the original windows.
Any questions for Mr. Bowen? Oh, no, you don't.
And I was just
Okay.
going through the materials, Anderson Series FiberX. It's a composite wood window. And here we have those spec sheets and the applicable design guidelines. We did receive a comment in support of the application, and we do have the petitioner here in person.
That's great. And FiberX is really just sort of a brand name,
It's
a type under a
right.
brand name.
It's Anderson's material blend. It's a wood fiber, plastic, or
Yeah, we call
polycarbonate.
this composite material.
Yeah.
Just wanted to clarify. Thank you. Any questions for city staff? All right, let me invite the applicant to come up to the podium. And if we could have your name and your address, please, sir.
Vance Ballard, 1201 Queen City.
Mr. Ballard, house is looking really wonderful.
Thank you.
Is there anything you want to tell us about, anything in addition that we need to know?
I'll be happy to tell you about it because I love the home. We've gone to great lengths. It's a beautiful, very well-known historic home, and we recognize that. We're super proud of it. I personally own a construction company, and we remodel historic homes in Birmingham, so I'm pretty sensitive to being sure that visually it looks correct. I personally believe we did a great job of that. I don't think there's any visual difference other than the fact that the windows are now 5-star energy rated and they are functional. But previously, they were 90% painted shut or warped, didn't lock, sort of thing. If you have a question specifically about FiberX, it is, I think Jordan got it right. It's kind of a composite of two things. It's a wood PVC mix. If you don't know much about windows, it's definitely, don't get it confused with vinyl. It's not that, So it's a much higher end product. Because of the nature of my company, we get a little discount at Home Depot, but that undiscounted window package was almost $80,000. So it was definitely not a cheap material. Be happy to answer any questions.
I don't know that we have any questions. Everything seems very straightforward.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Looking at this picture, I noticed that the existing lanterns have been replaced. Were they broken or what happened?
They were. They were completely just shot. They didn't work, so we put some new ones up there.
Thank you.
Anything else? Well, thank you, Mr. Ballard.
Sure, thank you.
We've had one submitted comment in support of the application. I see no one here to speak in support of or opposition to the application. I'll close the floor to public comment. We have a standing motion to approve.
My primary comment related to this is that just last month, we had a retroactive window case, and it was an unapproved material. And while I don't like retroactive cases, I've had numerous discussions with city staff about how this is a textbook case of how if we could update the guidelines, this could have been approved by staff. I mean, approved material, same light pattern exactly, all the way across.
Thank you. Standing motion to approve. HPC 4923, advance ballot petitions for a certificate of appropriateness for a material change to all windows on the primary structure located at 1201 Queen City Avenue in the Druid City Historic District. We shall vote, beginning on my right, please, Mr. McCool.
Yes?
Yes.
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 Yes, sir.
Mr. Ballard, your application has been approved. The house is looking great. Should anything else come up in the meantime, you know where to come. Talk to city staff. But the work is very nice, and thank you for all you're doing for the historic district. And do we have any new business?
So we, as staff, have approved 10 expedited reviews since the previous HPC meeting, and that is all we have for you.
Well, thank you so much for all that you do. This hearing is hereby adjourned.